Hi, I'm Mark Mohr with Christafari, GospelReggae.com. I'm also the president of the Positive Music Agency, a booking agency that does gospel reggae music. I'm sitting here with Mario Rocha. I'm actually doing his dreads, tightening his dreads. When I first met him, I made his dreads and they were about that long. This is how long I have known Mario for. And when I first met you, I remember when we were driving to get something to eat, you sang me a song.
Yeah.
And since then, you have recorded an album with the band Livingstone, right?
Yeah.
It's your band, and you have the album's called Blood, Sweat, and Tears. It's available at GospelReggae.com, and you're working on your next album. What's going to be called? Do you know yet?
It's not decided yet.
Okay, good. Still working on the prospects, trying to figure out the right title. Now, you have a question for me. Give it to me.
Yeah, my question is concerning booking. We're just trying to find out how to book more shows per year, book maybe higher paying shows, booking tours, just general booking question, how to get that going.
How many shows are you guys doing a year?
We're averaging about 30 shows a year right now.
30 shows. Now that is very, very good. 30 shows. If you're doing 30 shows, that's a great start. And who's doing your booking?
I do all the booking right now.
That is great. Also, I want to encourage artists out there who are trying to get somebody else to do all the work. Nobody else has the impetus that you have to pay rent every month. You hire another agency, unless it's the PMA, that is, and chances are what they're going to end up doing is taking whatever shows they can get, but they'll usually just receive calls. They usually won't make the cold calls that are necessary, which brings me to the real thing that you got to do is make cold calls. How are you booking these shows? Are you doing email, I'm guessing?
Yeah, mainly email, sending out messages through MySpace, Facebook.
One thing that I want to encourage artists is to realize that when they're booking a show, what they're really doing is they're saying, hey, will you give me $1,000? Or will you give me $2,000? And how many times would you reply to an email where somebody said, I'm in Africa and I'm the widow of so on and so forth. Would you give me money? No. Now I'm changing my health care plan right now, and I'm looking to go with Kaiser Permanente, and they sent me this big packet of all this stuff to go through. Would they just send the packet? No. They would call me. They would have an agent call me. And Denise calls me almost every day to make sure that I fill out the forms and send it out. And if they didn't do that, I probably wouldn't switch over to Kaiser Permanente. That's not an ad for them, but that's just how things are. You're building confidence when you call somebody. And when you call somebody, what you need to do is you need to build a relationship with them, build trust, find things in common, and ultimately convince them that your ministry is not only legitimate, but why they would need to add you to their show, to their festival, to their church, to their whatever. So I think that's crucial. Now, when I started booking Christafari, every time that I handed my bookings away to another agent, I would guarantee that I would have 6 months, which is how long the contract was for, 6 months of silence, maybe 1, 2, 3 shows. So the fact that you're doing 30 shows a year is excellent. But if you want to increase that, which all the artists, this is the #1 most common question by artists. I talk to gospel reggae artists every day, and they all say the same thing. How do I book more shows? Like there's some magical thing. Do the work. You got to book it. You got to book. You got to hit the phones, make cold calls every day. What I used to do when I was booking 30 show tours of Christafari going to Europe, I would sit down and with a blank sheet of paper and I would say, I'm going to make at least 20 calls today. Whether I book a show or not is irrelevant. But whether I'm going to make at least 20 calls where I actually speak with somebody. And, even if it's a no, and I would write down number 1, number 2, every one of those calls. And then the next day I would go back and if I left a message with number 7, I would call them up. So you got to make the calls. Now, are you going to school, or what's your story?
Yeah, I'm going to school full-time right now, working part-time.
So this is going to be hard for you, but if you want to break out of the working full-time for somebody else, what I would recommend that you do is get up earlier in the mornings, spend maybe 45 minutes or an hour making cold calls in the East Coast or in Europe. And then in the afternoons, maybe during lunchtime, take 30 minutes. If you can get Wi-Fi, even on a cell phone or on a laptop, you can use Skype, and it's free to call or very cheap to call using Skype. You can get Skype credit. Call people in your lunchtime in this area, and then when you come home, call Hawaii or call any place that's west of you because it's going to be earlier for them. And just do that. And you know what? I would even I remember my wife, she's filming, she can attest to this. I would start booking for our European tours at midnight, and I would make calls until 8 a.m. And that's how I would do 30 show tours, right, baby?
Yeah.
So if you don't do the work, you will not get the shows. Shows don't just magically come. Now think about all the artists out there who are doing good. They're huge. They're not huge because it just happened to them. They're huge because somebody is behind them, pushing them. Somebody's behind them doing the hard work. Beyonce had her father pushing Destiny's Child to stardom and working. Every artist, even if they're low-key, laid back, they always have a manager behind them pushing and promoting and doing it. Now, when you're doing a tour, you want to focus on a foundational date first. Foundational dates are the ones that are big money. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. The one that will cover the costs of you getting down there. And then once you're there, let's say you got a show that you booked in Tijuana, Mexico, and you live in Los Angeles. Then you try and book a show in, let's say, Oceanside on the way down, or LA, Oceanside, and then another show in San Diego, and then another show in Tijuana, and then maybe even you get something in Ensenada, and then on the way back, you book something else somewhere else. You want to route it around. But you've got to start with the foundational date. We don't go to Europe until we get one or two, usually two, big paying shows that cover our flights. Once we have that, then we can afford to get the shows that pay less. You're going to get more for weekends than you are for weekdays.